I'll just give a quick intro about myself. So my name is David. I've been working in the stablecoin space for a long time, since 2018. We were one of the first stablecoin projects to launch. So back then it was basically Tether, Circle, TrueUSD, Gemini USD, and then us. So our stablecoin was called USDS, which is different than this USDS, which is recently launched. And our original mission, can I get the Wi-Fi?
Work is fun.
Okay, work is fun.
App, like app sign, 177 HBT.
Okay.
Go to Circle member.
No, Circle member.
Yeah. You're gonna show slide, right?
I'm not going to show slides, but I will show
Sure.
like charts.
You do.
I thought about putting together slides, but I feel like no one likes slides, right? Work is fun at what?
177 SBT.
Like short for hybrid too.
Okay, makes sense. Very secure Wi-Fi password. Okay, so before I present something, I guess just a little bit about myself, right? So I started doing stablecoins in 2018. We started with, normal like fiat-backed stablecoins. So our stablecoin was called USDS, which was a US dollar-backed stablecoin. And our original mission was to make it easier for people to move money between their traditional accounts, like stock accounts or bank accounts, stuff like that, into this new emerging DeFi ecosystem. Unfortunately, we lost to Circle, who has now dominated that space. So since then, we've also launched stablecoins for other companies as well. So we basically took our experience launching our own stablecoin, and we launched the first what we called stablecoin as a service business. So there we helped a bunch of layer ones like Tezos, Ripple, Stellar, like a lot of the very early blockchains launch their first stablecoin. That business, we eventually got overtaken by Paxos, who is now doing stablecoins for companies like PayPal, whatever, right? So I think we were too early on all of these use cases. And now we're doing a DeFi-based stablecoin, so hopefully we're just in time for this one. So essentially, I've seen like everything from fully, compliant Web 2 stablecoins all the way to, not quite the most extreme like Terra Luna level, but I've seen some pretty crazy stablecoins out there. So my goal today is to basically give you guys an overview of, what the space has already learned, right? So you guys don't have to relearn the same lessons, make your own Terra Luna or whatever, right? As well as teach you guys, like if you, are thinking about using stablecoins, like what are the different options, right? Because many times when people think about stablecoins, they usually think, okay, we just use USDC or we just use USDT. But oftentimes there's actually a lot of value that you're giving up when you just use the default option. Because how does, Circle and Tether, how do they make money, right? They make money when people use their stablecoin and don't ask for anything in return, right? So the first thing I want to do is I'll map out the different types of stablecoins for you guys. So who can give me one example of like a famous stablecoin? I gave you guys a lot already.
I think you need to change the view to mirroring.
All right, I'm taking volunteers. So obviously there's,
Die.
DAI. Okay, that's a very good example. So who here knows how DAI actually works?
Over collateralized?
Or what?
Over collateralized on ETH?
Yes, correct. So why is this like a interesting use case? Like why would I want to deposit ETH to mint DAI?
To use leverage?
That is a very good use case, yes. So we'll put a CDP stablecoins like DAI, for example. So yeah, essentially the most common use cases are leverage or tax benefits. Yeah, there's actually many reasons, which I think is why DAI is so successful. So who here is familiar with over collateralized loans in like traditional finance? Like, is anyone okay? Can someone give me a traditional finance example?
I am just based on my experience. So basically, collateral means that you, for the users, has to go through a lot of steps of verification and also KYC to let the banking system know about their how much their collateral can be, and they can offer them bunch of loan products for that.
Yeah.
Bank loans.
Yeah, so banks offer these types of loans. So, but more specifically, right? I mean, these types of loans are usually seen as lower risk, and so the interest rate for them is usually lower, right? And this is actually a way that a lot of people who are smart with their money try to make their money more effective, right? So I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a house, right, and you own that house. But you want to, start a small business or maybe buy another house or something like that, right? But you don't have a lot of cash because you spent all your cash on buying your house, right? So how can you buy another house? Well, you can use your existing house as collateral, borrow money from the bank, and then use that money as down payment for your second house or to start your business or whatever, right? And the bank is okay with giving you this loan because they know that if you don't pay them back, they can just take your house, right? So it's the same idea with CDP stablecoins. So CDP stands for collateralized debt position. So in the case of DAI, the collateral is Ether. Well, it used to be Ether, now it's a whole basket of other assets, but basically, MakerDAO, which was the issuer of DAI, took this idea and they were like, let's do it with crypto, right? So that was the first very successful on-chain stablecoin, right? We also talked about fiat-backed stablecoins like, USDT, USDC, for example, right? So with fiat-backed stablecoins, like, why would I want to use a fiat-backed stablecoin? Like,
Security.
Okay, security is a good one.
Liquidity.
Liquidity is another good one. Yeah, like essentially, like fiat-backed stablecoins are about as close to spending, real currency as you can get on the blockchain, right? Because the government itself does not issue any currencies on the blockchain, at least not today, right? So if I want to get government currency, I can only go through the banks that the government say, okay, these are the banks that are allowed to hold government currency, or I can have cash or something like that, right? If I want to get it on the blockchain, someone needs to basically, give me a guarantee that this random token that is not intrinsically worth anything can later be exchanged for currency that the government will accept, right? So this is where fiat-backed stablecoins first came from. So yeah, the main advantage of fiat-backed stablecoins is probably their liquidity, because any market maker or any trader would be willing to accept it because they know that they can redeem it for the underlying government currency, which they can then spend in, the economy or whatever. So okay, but what's the downside of fiat-backed stablecoins?
No upside.
Hmm?
No upside.
No what?
Upside.
Yeah, no, sure. I mean, all stablecoins, yeah, no upside. So the biggest risk of fiat-backed stablecoins historically has been what you would call like counterparty risk, right? So when you spend fiat currency normally, like if I go on the street and I buy some food and I use cash, the street vendor is willing to take my cash because they know that the government requires everyone to accept this cash, right? But when I spend a stable coin on chain, I'm trusting that like whoever's receiving my stable coin trusts that they can later sell that stable coin to someone else or redeem it for the underlying currency, right? But unlike the government, like, you know, these entities, you cannot guarantee that they have the cash, right? Like Circle, for example, you know, they are not the US government. They cannot create US dollars out of thin air. They have to work with other banks and institutions like that to make sure that your USDC can later be exchanged for cash, right? And some people think that, oh, of course, you know, like what can go wrong? But actually, many times, you know, there has been like a scare where, you know, okay, maybe not all the money is there, right? I don't know who's been in the crypto space for long enough, but there was one time where USDC, you know, fell to like 85 cents or something like that, right? USDT many times has fallen to like.
Well, I think it was a healthy situation for USDC.
It was what situation?
It was a healthy situation for USDC itself because it shows that it is literally backed by real currency.
Yeah, I mean, it ended up being a good proof that, you know, they have good risk management and stuff like that. But the market panicked because, you know, like they know that it's not a guarantee that the funds are there, right? Like if the government did not backstop some of these banks that were collapsing at the time, which is why everyone was so scared, then it's possible that USDC could have actually lost a significant amount of money, right? So anyways, those are the trade-offs for fiat-backed stablecoins. Another one that I alluded to earlier is like algorithmic stablecoins, right? Or I'll call it derivative stablecoins. So, you know, this can include things that are, you know, currently very popular, like Athena's USDE, for example, right? Or in the past, things like Terra, UST, right? You know, there's been other experiments here, right? Like FFX USD as well. So this is basically a term to describe a type of stable coin where the way that it keeps its price at $1 relies on some, you know, exotic like market dynamic, right? So like, for example, USDE is like a basis trade on futures exchanges, right? So basically they go long and short the same amount of Bitcoin, for example. So in theory, their exposure to Bitcoin is $0, but because they're going long and short at the same time, usually going short will pay you more yield than it costs to go long, whatever. I'm not gonna explain the full mechanics, but basically, you know, there's like a spectrum of derivative stable coins, right? On one end, you have ones that sound reasonable and should work in theory, and then on the other end, you have like full Ponzi-nomics type stable coins like UST, right? So oftentimes, like some of the most interesting innovations in the stablecoin space are happening here, but because of the trauma that people have with a lot of these failed projects like Terra, the whole space kind of gets a bad reputation from that. So we'll maybe deep dive into some of the more interesting ones later, but at a high level, like these are the major types of stablecoins. Now, regardless of how the stablecoin is created, all stablecoins fulfill basically the same role within the economy, right? So, like, why would you want to hold a stablecoin, right? Like you said, there's no upside, right? So why do I want to hold a stablecoin?
So I can do stuff on-chain?
Okay. Yeah, so we'll make a slide called use cases. Okay, so yeah, like on-chain DeFi, stuff like that, right? Because there's no way to use fiat currency on chain without a stablecoin. Anything else? Payments,
Maybe lending and borrowing.
lending and borrowing. So, like, but why can you not do these use cases with, you know, like Bitcoin or Ether or Sol or, you know, anything else?
Volatility.
Okay. So basically the use case here is you want to avoid volatility, right? Like let's say for example, you know, I am in a, you know, long-term business deal with some, you know, other company, and I tell them like, hey, you know, in 6 months, like this is what I want, I will pay you this much. But if I'm paying them in like Sol, for example, right, they could end up receiving, you know, 3 times as much in 6 months, or they could receive half as much in 6 months. So it's very hard for them to plan using like a native crypto denominated transaction, right? So, you know, there's many examples on chain. Like there are marketplaces, for example, where you can get like long-term loans. So that's a lending and borrowing use case. There's apps where you can use stable coins to pay when you go like overseas, for example, right? So I actually use one in Vietnam. So I don't have a bank account here, but I use a payment app called Yodel. I mean, there's like a ton of these competitors. But essentially you just load up with some USDT and then you can use the QR system and pay local merchants. And the way that I load up my account is I deposit USDT into the wallet that they give me, right? So payments is a big use case. But essentially, like the thing that these things all share in common is like you want to somehow use fiat currency, but you want the programmability, or you want the, you know, borderless property of crypto somehow, right? Another big one is like overseas, like remittance, for example, right? I know there's a lot of people who, you know, maybe they work in a foreign country and they want to send money back home. I actually know a lot of people here who use like USDT for that reason, right? So for all of these use cases, you can actually use any of these stable coins, right? You can use USDC, you can use USDT, you can use DAI, you can use USDE. So why would a user choose one stablecoin over another when they are, you know, let's say sending money to their family, for example?
I think it's liquidity.
Okay, liquidity is a big one, yeah. Anything else?
Adoption.
Adoption. So yeah, which platforms support it, which wallets show it.
Integration.
Yeah, integration. Risk maybe, right? Like what's the chance that the stablecoin loses value, right? I mean, obviously it's not gonna go up, but stablecoins have shown that they can go down, right? So there's essentially a trade-off, you know, in these factors depending on which type of stablecoin you want to choose, right? So for example, if you go with USDC or USDT, you know, earlier we already said that they're the most liquid types of stablecoins, right? Because, you know, people can just redeem it for the underlying fiat currency. So why would someone use a different type of stablecoin? So the answer is that any type of stablecoin which is not fiat-backed usually has to give the user some unique benefit, right? So in the case of DAI from the earlier example, the unique benefit is lower borrowing costs, right? So if you borrow DAI instead of borrowing USDC, you will pay less interest, you know, against your ETH, for example, right? Or USDE, for example, right, like from Athena. So in that case, Athena actually gives you a way to earn money on your USDE, because if you stake it for their SUSDE product, they will give you a portion of the yield that they're generating from the Spaces trade that I talked about earlier, right? So basically, if you want to do something that is not a fiat-backed stablecoin, you have to think about, what is the unique selling point of my stablecoin product, right? And even if you do a fiat-backed stablecoin, honestly, it's very hard to compete against USDC and USDT, right? So the question you have to answer is basically, why would a user use this stablecoin, right? So I can give you an example from my project. So I have a project which is called Trinity. So I'm just going to shill this project for a little bit because I understand it the best. So we wanted to launch a stablecoin that made borrowing on lending protocols even more efficient than like DAI, for example, right? Because the problem that we saw was that many users, when they use lending and borrowing platforms, they're using something like Aave or Compound, or like Camino, for example, right? However, when you borrow like USDC or USDT on these platforms, Circle and Tether, like they make money from your business, right? But you as a user, you don't get anything back. So what we realized was users are actually losing a lot of money when they borrow USDC or USDT. So what we did was we created a stablecoin that actually pays users when they borrow on lending protocols. We also pay users when they use our stablecoin in other DeFi use cases as well. So like the overarching differentiator for our stablecoin is we pay users who use the stablecoin, unlike a lot of these other projects who pay users who like hold their stablecoin, for example, right? So we are encouraging money velocity. So this is just one example of like how you can think about stablecoins differently, right? Because oftentimes people just think, okay, stablecoin, it's a boring product. It's always worth $1. You hold it in your wallet when you are selling your crypto or whatever, right? But actually, stablecoins are also ways that you can pass value back to users, right? So a very famous example of this is Aave's GHO. So who here has heard of GHO before? Okay. So this is a relatively more obscure stablecoin, but essentially the problem that Aave wanted to solve was that, so they have two problems, right? So one problem is that, okay, people are borrowing a lot on Aave, but when people borrow other stablecoins, like Aave doesn't get any benefit directly themselves, right? And the second problem that they had was, okay, in a lending protocol, if the collateral ever becomes, worth less than people expect, then the protocol can experience what is called bad debt, right? So they basically created this also as like an insurance mechanism for the protocol, so that people who stake their GHO in Aave can earn a yield in return for being the insurance program for the protocol, essentially. So anyways, all those details aside, the high level message I'm trying to send here is that, Aave realized that they had a problem with their product, and they realized that one way that they could fill that hole or solve that problem was by creating a stablecoin that rewarded users who added value to the Aave ecosystem, essentially, right? So usually when we talk to other like businesses or protocols that are thinking about issuing their own stablecoin, that is the first thing that we ask them, right? Like, what is the actual problem that you're trying to solve? Because if all they need is a way to represent USD on chain, we tell them to just use USDC or USDT, right? Because it is not, it's actually very simple to create a stablecoin, but it's not easy to operate a stablecoin. There's a lot of capital intensive operations if you're doing a fiat-backed stablecoin, right? There's a lot of like smart contract risk if you're doing like a crypto-backed or derivative stablecoin. So unless you have a very good reason, the first question we ask is like, what problem is USDC or USDT not solving for you today, right? So at a super high level, that's kind of the framework that I use to think about stablecoins, right? So whether you are a project that's looking to integrate a stablecoin or whether you're thinking about launching your own stablecoin, this is typically how I start. So now that we've covered like the different types, the different use cases, and how to approach thinking about this problem, what I want to do is I want to actually deep dive into like maybe one or two of these projects, depending on which one you guys are the most interested in, because I don't think we'll have time to go over all of them, but I think one or two we could do, right? So who here has like a burning question, they really want to know like how, Maker works, or how Athena works, or what happened to Terra Luna?
I actually have an interesting question with ISC. Have you heard of that international stablecoin?
Have I heard of what?
ISC.
ISC?
They launched it on Solana 2 years ago. It is backed by real world assets like gold.
Ah, okay. So I haven't heard of ISC, but yeah, there's been many similar type of projects.
Yeah, so they were like maintaining, the price was actually
This
going
one.
up over a period of time.
ISC.money.
Okay. So it's like a basket of like stable
Yeah,
assets, right?
assets, yeah. But higher traditional assets, I would say, not just Bitcoin and these things, but it is also going good, but they were unable to get that option. Like, what do you think is the major challenge?
Okay, yeah. So the way that I would categorize these stable coins is I would say that, this is what I would consider it's like a pseudo stable coin, right? Like it's not as stable as like, a one-to-one back stable coin, but it's less volatile than like BTC or ETH or stocks, for example, right? So the most famous example I can think of, there was a project which pegged itself to the, it was like the inflation rate or something like that. I don't exactly remember. There's like some IMF basket that tracks, global cost of living and stuff like that. And they basically tried to create an instrument which tracks that, right? So the value slowly goes up over time to account for inflation and stuff like that. And it's like worth, some value that is like between all the different currencies and whatever. So it was a very technically impressive project, right? Like, they got a lot of praise, their audits were spotless, like they had a very like prestigious team, right? People who were like obviously knew what they were doing, but they also gained no adoption. So I thought about this problem many, many years ago, and the conclusion that I came to is that right now there's kind of like two extremes. So there's like the traditional financial world where 99% of transactions and value happen, and then there's like crypto and DeFi where 1 or 2% of transactions and value is being stored, right? And the types of people who are willing to use DeFi, they're the types of people that are, maybe they're early adopters, right? Like they love new technology. Maybe they're, very risk loving, right? Like they see like the 60% APY and they just can't help themselves, but, go all in, right? Or they're, like they have some sort of philosophy or belief, like they believe in global money or they believe in censorship resistant money or something like that, right? So these people tend to be, like they tend to be okay with accepting risk for one reason or another, right? Either because, they want the high potential or because they want to, stand for something or whatever, right? And on the other side, you have everyone else, right? Most of our parents, many of our friends, right? The people who think the current system is good enough. They don't want to bother learning, how to manage crypto and whatever. So the problem with these like semi-stable coins that, try to do something interesting like, combat inflation or track a relatively stable basket of assets is that it appeals to neither of the two crowds, right? For the traditional crowd, they still have to learn a new technology, but they're not getting much of the benefit as they would from full adoption, right? And the full adoption crowd sees these as like, half-baked, like solutions that Bitcoin or Ether has already solved, for example, right? And the people who truly want stable value already have regular stable coins like USDC or USDT, right? So you're essentially left with a very small number of users who care enough about going on chain, they're willing to use these products, but they don't really care about missing out on, the upside potential of native cryptos. And they want to combat inflation or something like that without using DeFi. Like there's a lot of ands that you have to fulfill to be in the target market for this type of product, right? And I would say it's the same reason why stablecoins for most currencies have not succeeded either, right? Because in global trade right now, dynamics are changing a little bit, but USD is still like more than half of all global settlement, right? So because of that reason, most international companies or traders or whatever, they're willing to accept USD. And because the liquidity is so deep, like for them, the little benefit of settling their trades in their own local currency is outweighed by the extra liquidity of USDC or USDT, right? So even Circle, who is one of the biggest stablecoin companies, they tried to launch like a euro-backed stablecoin. No one uses it, right? I bet many of you didn't even know it existed, right? But like essentially, like all of these non-USD stablecoins so far have fallen into that trap. Now, I don't think it will always be like this, right? Like I do think at some point in the future, we will cross like a critical threshold where enough people are using crypto from a certain country or in a certain currency that it will start to make sense for them to have their own local stable coin or something like that. But I don't know. My predictions are always too early, but I think we're at least another like 4, maybe 8 years away from something like that. So hopefully that answered your question.
What's your opinion on Ethereum? Because I know a friend, and he has been doing the looping on Ethereum, and as I know, the default API is like 8%. After his looping, he got like 65. Not that much progressive. It was crazy. It was easy money, and I was like 65% on a stablecoin.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of a Ponzi, but the model sounds like there's no risk, except that Binance collapsed or something. But yeah, I just want to know your opinion on that.
So Athena is taking advantage of like basically an asymmetry in the market, right? So for everyone who doesn't know how Athena works, I'll explain it real quick. So when who here has traded on a perps DEX or like a futures exchange? Okay, so when you go long on a perps DEX, there's something called like a funding rate, right? It's the interest rate that you pay for the leverage that the exchange is giving you. So it's not actually the exchange that gives you that interest rate. It is somebody else on the other side of the trade, right? Someone who's going short on the same asset that you are going long, right? And these people who are going short, they earn the interest rate that you are paying them. So what Athena does is they take advantage of the fact that so many people want to go long on BTC. So what they do is they take, regular Bitcoin, they deposit it onto an exchange, and then they short that same quantity of Bitcoin, and they just earn the interest rate that people are paying them, right? So now the question, of course, is what is the risk, right? It sounds like it should work, right? I mean, obviously, if one of these exchanges gets hacked, then something bad could happen. I mean, actually, recently there was a scare about this, right? I think during the Bybit, was it the Bybit hack or something? I don't remember.
Maybe.
One of the exchanges that Athena was on, they got hacked, right? But it turns out that Athena is actually using a different custody provider called Copper. So they hold all their Bitcoin off of the exchange, essentially, and they have some sort of agreement with the exchanges to like settle their trades like once per day or something like that. So, you know, obviously the Athena team, they've done their homework. They've, you know, done more than the basic level of, you know, precautions that you would expect like a normal trader to take, for example, right? But the question is, are there still risks, right? You know, if we ignore the fact that their Bitcoin wallet could get hacked or something like that, right? Like that's the obvious risk. What is the other risk? So the most well-known risk that was talked about in the early days of Athena is like negative funding rates, right? So let's say we enter a bear market, and during the bear market, instead of people willing to pay to go long, people are now willing to pay to go short, right? Like if everyone agrees that Bitcoin is going to go down, for example. In that case, Athena, instead of earning money on their short position, they could be paying out money on their short position instead, right? So the way that they try to mitigate this is they keep like a buffer, so they don't pay out all the money that they make. They keep a portion of it to, you know, account for this possible scenario, but they've only like modeled their buffer based on the past few years of historical data, right? And as we all know, you know, the future is never exactly like the past, right? So if we enter like a period of time, for example, where, you know, funding rates stay negative for many months in a row because we enter like a very long, you know, bear market or something like that, then that's definitely a risk to Athena, right? Though they are starting to diversify their sources of yield as well, right? So Athena now gets a lot of their yield from like treasury bills and stuff like that because they've actually saturated the market for people who want to go long on Bitcoin. So their biggest risk, I think, is actually just losing their differentiator, right? Like Athena was able to pay out very crazy yield in the beginning because there was a big arbitrage opportunity to, you know, sell like short Bitcoin positions essentially, right? But now that they are such a big player, their positions actually compress the interest rate that borrowers are now paying. So in a way, they've reduced their own edge to the point where now they're only paying like 8%, like you said,
It's
right?
like 10%. It was 20%.
Yeah, it depends, right? So depending on the market environment, right? Like during certain months when Bitcoin does very well, then funding rates go up and Athena's yield goes up, stuff like that. But by and large, like the very early days of Athena, the reason why so many people jumped on in the beginning is because even without looping, they were paying like 30-40% APY, right? And if you loop that thing, I mean, you could get like 200-300% APY easily, right? So like that big, like, you know, free money opportunity, I think is mostly gone at this point, right? So are there opportunities to earn, you know, more returns on Athena compared to like STABLY, for example, right? Definitely yes. But you have to be, I guess, okay with the fluctuating rates, and you have to be okay with the perceived higher risk, right? I say perceived higher risk because, you know, you do have to trust that all the pieces in the Athena ecosystem have to move well together, right? Like, for example, you know, even if their custodian never gets hacked, it's possible that maybe like some of the executives on the team, you know, get phished or they get kidnapped or they get, you know, ransomware or whatever, right? Like there are a lot of risks that are not visible to normal everyday users, right? Whereas something like Maker, for example, it's been battle tested, all the code is on chain, right? So people perceive the risk to be lower. And the way that you can, so one like rule of thumb for risk, this is not always true, but the rule of thumb is like, you know, what is the average yield that people demand in order to hold the asset, right? And SDI is like one of the lowest consistently yielding products that people are still willing to hold because people view it as like the on-chain treasury bill, right? Like the benchmark yield for DeFi assets. So Athena has not earned that yet, but maybe in time they will. But they have to go through enough of these bad events and prove that they can, withstand the test of time, right?
So I actually, went through the docs really carefully, and I saw that they did some math on the funding thingy. So they did an analysis of over like previous, even in a bear market.
Yeah.
And they saw that even during bear market, they can still make some money out of that. So I think that one is reasonable.
If you think that the last 3 years are going to be representative.
I think it might be, I mean, it's reasonable because in long term, like in 10 years, all assets will go up. So I think it's somewhat reasonable. So I still can't like think of the scenario that they will collapse. Can you give me like a scenario of that? Like,
so are you asking for a scenario where the funding rate goes negative for a long time, or are you asking for other risks?
I'm asking about the looping and how will everything collapse when people will just, everyone is looping and it, makes the market cap goes crazily high and there's only a small asset behind.
Okay, so you're asking about the risk of looping, not Athena.
Looping and in Athena case. So.
Okay, I will cover these two cases separately. So first, let me talk about looping. So who here knows what looping is? Okay, so looping is just a fancy DeFi term for taking one asset that is paying out some high interest rate, borrowing some asset that costs less than what the other asset is paying out, and making the difference, right? In traditional finance, this is called a basis trade. So, for example, right, like let's say you have SUSDE, which is paying out, 20% APY. And let's say you can borrow USDC at 10% APY, right?
Are those fixed rates or do they?
Okay, that's another good question. So typically these are variable rates, right? So looping carries the risk that you might go underwater if borrowing rates go up or if yields go down, right? However, there are ways to fix rates for certain use cases. So Pendle, for example, you can use to fix the rate of your collateral. There are some lending protocols which let you borrow fixed rate for a certain term as well. But the most common type of looping is variable rate looping because those markets are usually the most liquid, right? Because the moment you make something fixed rate, that asset is now not fungible anymore to the underlying, right? Because usually you have some maturity that it's fixed rate for, right? So looping typically carries the risk of liquidations, right? So I'll give you guys an example. So let's say we have, SUSDE is 20% APY, and let's say borrow USDC is 10% APY. So let's say you want to go crazy, you want to go like, 20x leverage on this thing, right? So what you would do, so let's say you have, start with $100. So what you would do is you would essentially borrow $1,900 in USDC, and then you would swap it for SUSDE. And now what you have is $2,000 in a SUSDE collateral and $1,900 in USDC debt, right? So your net worth is still $100, right? So nothing has changed there. However, now you're earning, 20% on $2,000, right? So that's $400 in yield, and your borrowing cost is, 1,900 times 10%, which is 190 in borrow cost. So you're netting $210, and $210 over 100, you're making like 210% APY basically, right? So that's where these crazy APY numbers for looping come from. But the risk here is that this is very sensitive to both of these inputs, right? Like if USDC borrowing cost goes up, then your looping yield goes down drastically. If SUSDE APY goes down, then your looping yield goes down drastically as well. So that's one risk, right? The other risk is, okay, let's say SUSDE depegs a little bit, right? Like during the Bybit hack, for example, it depegged a few percent as people got scared and fled for the exit. So if you were 10x leveraged, your liquidation threshold is, I mean, it depends on the lending protocol, but you know, it would probably be something like 95 cents or something like that, right? So if your liquidation threshold is 95 cents and USDE fell below 95 cents, then you wipe your whole account, right? Whereas if you were unleveraged, then you only lose 5% or whatever, right? So the biggest risk by far for looping is that the assets that you thought were correlated become uncorrelated, right? Like this is only a low risk trade if the correlation never breaks, right? Another common form of looping is looping like liquid staking tokens, right? Like, you know, stake ETH or, you know, Sanctum Sol or whatever, right? So you take like a yield bearing version of the asset and then you borrow the non-yield bearing version and then you do the same thing, right? So for a period of time, you could earn, like there was a period of time, I don't remember how many months ago this was, but you could earn like 120% APY on holding ETH, for example, which is crazy, right? I think Solana had something similar as well, though not as crazy. But like essentially with looping, you can magnify your returns and it's seen as low risk if the correlation between the assets is real, right? And one way that you can check what the correlation between the assets is you can check the Oracle feed that the lending protocol uses for the assets, right? So some lending protocols, instead of tracking the market price of these assets, like SUSDE, for example, they will actually track the underlying collateral, right? So they will have some sort of feed into, you know, maybe like a bank account or like something like that. Or for on-chain LSTs, right? They look at all the balances of the validators, something like that, right? And based on that, you get a feed. So as long as the validators don't get hacked or as long as the bank doesn't lose money, then you are truly correlated, right? And in those markets, usually the borrow cost tends to go up to very close to the APY of the underlying asset, right? So if this were a real example, the borrowing cost of USDC would probably be something like 18%, right? So the amount of free money that exists in looping, in practice, tends to be not that high, unless you are taking on like extra risk, basically. So that's the risk of looping. I mean, the risk of Athena, I mean, other than what we talked about, I mean, the biggest thing is just counterparty risk, right? You really have to trust the team to manage the funds well. You have to trust their custodian. You have to trust the exchanges. I mean, the more people you have involved, like if any one of these parties doesn't do their job correctly, it could result in lost funds, right? That's the risk. So.
Yeah, I think that quite satisfies my answer. I think. But let's say that if the USDE will not be depegged, he will be earning 60% every year, right?
Assuming the rates stay the same.
Yeah, stay the same.
Yeah, but
like
if,
90%.
I mean, if USDE really proves itself to be safe, I think more people will come in, which will lower the yield on SUSDE, right? And more people will want to loop it, which will increase the borrowing costs for those markets, right? So I think it's unlikely that the 60% looping returns would stay, right?
Yeah.
Most likely what would happen is it would go down over time
Like
as more people
equilibrium.
enter the market, yeah, until some equilibrium is hit. It will probably always be higher than just holding SUSDE, but it probably won't be that much higher in the long run, right? There's no free money usually.
Just add this money.
Yeah. Okay, any other stablecoin projects? Otherwise, we can play a game. Everyone loves games. Any other, yeah? Any other projects anyone wants to deep dive into?
I just want to deep dive into more about Ethereum, like how would they execute, like do all the custodian, how can they deal with them, how can they deal with the holding the assets and stuff? Can you say more about that?
So I don't think they share a lot about their like operations,
From your
at least not
experience,
from what I've
yeah.
seen. So okay, if I had to guess, right? So this is just my guess. This is not based on what they actually do.
Mhm.
But my guess is that Athena themselves, they probably actually work directly with a lot of like market makers and professional trading firms, because their biggest challenge is for every dollar that comes in to USDE, they need to create that, you know, net neutral BTC position, right? So that means they need to go out and buy spot BTC, and they need to short the same amount of BTC on one of their exchanges, all without, you know, losing money to slippage or moving the market too much or something like that, right? So I don't think that they're doing that internally. Of course, I don't know. I think they're probably working with some of the big market makers on that, because the market makers, you know, they want to have like inventory, and with inventory they can make money because they can make the order books deeper or whatever, right? Or make more markets. So I'm sure there's some deal there where Athena like rents these market makers liquidity. In exchange, the market makers help Athena scale up and down. It's actually kind of like how ETFs work, if you're familiar, right? Like if you buy an ETF, the ETF issuer isn't going out and like buying a little bit of each share, right? They're usually working with market makers who are called like authorized participants, who, you know, bundle up big batches of shares to create ETFs and stuff like that. So that's my guess for how they're doing the operations, because from what I know, also the core Athena team is also pretty small. So I would assume that they outsource a lot of their operational work. But of course, that introduces risk, right?
Yeah, there are many parties involved.
Yeah, there's more parties than we think, probably.
Also, there is CRV USD that I really like the concept of it.
Yeah.
And right now it provides around 13% APY. And I think it's relatively risk-free according to the other positions while we compare with the SUSDC Ethereum.
Yeah, I mean, so CRV USD is an example of a CDP stablecoin that also tries to solve a problem of the protocol, right? So CRV USD is issued by the same team behind Curve, which is the stablecoin focused DEX. They also have their own lending protocol, and their goal with CRV USD, I guess, is to capture more of the stablecoin volume in TVL through their own stablecoin rather than like USDC or USDT or whatever, right?
I mean, it makes sense because they have the best DEX for you to be able to trade between these stable currencies because of their algorithm. And of course, they are going to provide some sort of generate some sort of yield on top of the whole tradings, on top of the whole pools.
Yeah.
So using those pools that literally created by those stables as a collateral, I mean, it makes sense actually in terms of safety and exposure.
Yeah, I mean, so the one thing that has been kind of surprising to me is that CRV USD hasn't actually gained as much adoption as I thought it would
This
have.
is my concern.
So I think the reason for this is, like, if Curve pushes CRV USD too hard, it might alienate other stablecoin projects from joining the Curve ecosystem, right? This is my guess.
Oh, makes sense.
I don't know if this is true, right? So they basically have this, you know, flagship product, which is battle tested and a lot of people trust and love. And they now have this question that they have to ask themselves, which is, do they risk the flagship product in order to promote this new product that they're putting out there, right? And I'm guessing that they're trying to be very cautious with that. So I don't know.
Makes sense actually, yeah. In terms of competition.
Yeah, because I mean, sometimes you don't want to compete with your customers, right? It'll scare them away. Okay, is there any other questions before we move on? Okay, because I want to play a game with you guys. So I've taught you guys a lot about stablecoins now. So now everyone is going to operate their own stablecoin project, okay? So there is a game from a company called StableWatch where you can simulate running your own stablecoin project, and you will go through decisions like, you know, what kind of stablecoin you want to make, what happens when, you know, certain things happen in the market or whatever. So anyways, if you want to scan this QR code, or I will pull up the website as well.
StableWatch.io, right?
Yeah. I don't actually know if their game is still listed on their main website.
What?
Yeah. Okay, but the URL for their game is here. I'll add it. Yeah, it's ybsgaming.up.railway.app. Yes.
I'll send the link in the group as well.
Multiplayer.
Yeah, so I will make a lobby for everyone to join. Basically, so, you know, I actually use this game for my own team as well, because it actually gives, I mean, it's not realistic in the sense that, like, you know, like the types of things that happen and whatever, but it gives you an idea of like what are the types of concerns that you might have when you're operating a stablecoin. So, create a room. Okay, so in the room ID field, you can.
Can you throw that QR code up there one more time real quick?
Yes.
Grab it, yeah. Thank you.
Oh, we have one person.
And where did that code go?
It's up here. WVPSHX. Okay, so the goal of this game is to launch a stablecoin with the highest TVL. And the way that you lose the game is you run out of money, okay? So, like, there is the money in your stablecoin, which is the TVL, but there's also the money that you need as a project in order to operate the team, you know.
So it's like a simulator.
Exactly, it's a
Like
simulator.
Stablecoin type.
Yeah, that's correct. Okay, anyone else? Otherwise, I'm gonna start.
Should we switch to debug mode?
Multiplayer.
It's unnecessary, right?
No, yeah, I think it's unnecessary. I think it's there because when the game first launched, there were some bugs, but I'm pretty sure most of those bugs have been fixed.
How long is usually for a game, a round game?
It depends on how fast you are. So each round you have to make, I think, like 3 decisions or something like that. And there's like, I think 12 or 13 rounds in total. So if you guys are fast, this can be like 15 minutes. If you guys are slow, I mean, I don't know. Okay. So yeah, the first phase is you have to pick what kind of stablecoin you want to launch. So
I'll be right back.
First
Exotic on team.
Oh my god, I just kicked out.
yeah, after you pick, you also have to lock it in at the bottom.
This seems horrid.
I couldn't be able to manage to get some.
You couldn't get in.
Yeah,
Same.
anyway,
Oh no.
I just kicked out. I don't know why.
I got kicked out as well.
Okay, if enough people got kicked out, I can relaunch. Okay, did anyone else want to join and was not able to join?
Let's relaunch.
Okay, 3 people. All right, I'm gonna relaunch. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Wait, what? How do I kill this? Okay, I think I have to put a new name. David 2. Okay. The new code is QABHS0.
So all this is things we knew.
Yeah.
H-S-0, right?
Yeah, should be a 0.
Okay. Waiting to start.
Is there a cap on number of players?
Maybe there is, but
Because I
don't
was in
think-
the waiting room and then it just like nothing happened.
Really?
Yeah, I was the 4th person in the lobby and then
It's O or
Just
S
did
zero.
Zero.
Is it working?
It's possible that there's a cap, but I've never.
one in lobby and then 0 in lobby.
I think you guys
So
are
the
looking
last
to
one
the
is
because
0,
there's
not
a button
O.
which is
I'm pretty sure.
Ah, okay.
There's a button to join. I think you have to.
Yeah, 0.
Oh, so I have no idea about that.
Wait. Okay.
You should restart. You should restart and.
Yeah, the last digit is 0. It's not O. Okay, it's the number
Yeah, I
is
think you
0.
guys might have the wrong room.
Can you
Yeah.
Oh.
Q A
E
H
S 0.
N U.
S and zero?
You can join room.
Yeah. And then drum room?
Yep.
Yeah. Can you back to
I think you don't work everyone.
Yes. If you want the QR code again. Okay, we have 10 people. I think one more.
Start yet?
Almost.
We have 10 people.
Yeah, QABHS0. I can try to make the text bigger if anyone else still needs it.
I sent the code in the group.
Okay. Am I waiting for anyone else? Okay, I'm gonna click start. Okay.
Yep.
Alright, so pick your stablecoin type and then we will.
Wait, what's the winning criteria? Like, the more money I get?
Whoever makes the most
TVL?
TVL for
Okay.
their stablecoin without going bankrupt.
The most what?
Like whoever has a stable coin that has the largest amount in circulation, basically.
Okay.
So your goal is to attract users and to attract money.
Okay. So after locking strategy, just wait, right?
Yeah. So once everyone locks in, this bar should go up to 11.
About the same.
So many strategies.
1 minute. Yeah. Or still the same.
Wait, where's my budget?
Everyone starts with the same amount of money. You will see in the first round how much money.
Oh, 1 mil.
TBL is 1 mil.
It's TVL.
Yeah,
Budget
you
is,
start with TVL 1 million.
And budget is 150K, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Do nothing.
Okay, 5 more. Okay, 3 more. It's not life or death, guys. It's just the game.
Can I host this one by myself? Like, can I play
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, there's
Okay,
a single
I'll
player
practicing
mode.
this after.
There's even a leaderboard that I think resets every week or month or something. Okay, last person, come on. You get 10 seconds. 9. Okay, there we go. Okay, so action phase. So you are presented a series of actions that you can take. Some of the actions cost money. I mean, you will see it on your own device. Some of the actions do not cost money, and they all have different impacts on users, TVL, stuff like that. And your goal is to maximize long-term TVL growth within your budget. Also, the other thing to keep in mind is the more TVL you have, the more money you make as well, right? Depending on what kind of stablecoin you picked in the beginning. Yeah, so in addition to picking the actions at the top, you also have to pick the things at the bottom and lock in as well. Okay, for those of you who have locked in the actions, don't forget to scroll down and also lock in your encounter as well.
Good game.
Yep.
I'm gonna be honest, this game has actually taught me some stuff about running a stablecoin project.
Oh, I mean, it work for everything, right? You're basically like designing new economy. But it work for games, work for DeFi.
Practice makes better.
It helped you create good economics as well, I think. Yeah.
Okay, 4 left. Remember, if you lock in the action, you also have to go down and lock in the encounter as well.
Those who in Square, we actually invested in a data neutral project.
I hope that's the type that you picked for this.
I did.
Okay.
I picked a data neutral project.
Okay, so turn 1 events. So there's a DPEG for a certain type of stablecoin. If you pair your liquidity against this type, good luck. All right, and I will. Once you guys are done reviewing, I can move on to the next phase.
Just a review.
Okay.
Okay, I'll give you guys 10 more seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, when you're done reviewing, you have to click the button at the bottom. Okay, we're moving forward. Okay, so currently Leo is number 1. Okay, maybe cheating, cannot tell. But you spent half your budget already, so remember, if you run out of money, you lose the game. So keep that in mind. Okay, next round of actions and encounters. Good luck.
If Reese is not going to make it label and try to win coin.
Many of these actions that you see are things you see on crypto Twitter, like every
Yeah.
day.
So the events are randomly.
Yeah, I believe so. I haven't played this game enough times to see if there's a pattern. Okay, someone needs to lock in their last action.
Who's K?
Who's K? I think you only locked in the bottom. You need to click on the top button as well. Okay. Okay. Oh, major protocol gets hacked. All right. Good luck, everyone.
Shit.
Why is everyone losing money?
Running a stablecoin business is hard, you know. You gotta lose money to make money. Okay, I'm gonna move on. Hope you're done reading. Okay, we have a new market leader. Oh, it seems like the top two are both delta neutral stablecoins. Okay, but
But they're
someone's about to
budget-
run out of money already. Wow. All right, good luck, guys. Remember, it is possible to go bankrupt running a stablecoin. You cannot use your customers' money as your own money. Wow, only one of you still has 6 digits in budget. Everyone loves spending money. I can tell many of you are not going to make it.
Some of these responses are hilarious.
But they are what people actually do.
Crazy.
These are all based on real events.
What is the 4% benchmark?
So that is the market yield that,
Oh, okay, so
like, yeah. So if I actually don't know how it impacts like TVL growth, but like, you know, I know that if benchmark yield is higher, then higher yielding stablecoins will grow more than lower yielding stablecoins. All right, 2 people have not locked in their actions. Remember, you have to lock in at the top and at the bottom. Who is Mark Dickens?
Oh, that's me.
All right. Central bank digital currency launched.
That was
Wow.
Did anyone get bankrupt already?
Yeah.
Wow.
People.
4 people in one round.
I'm close.
The best stable coins are the ones that get close to bankruptcy and then survive.
Not to TBR racing. Yeah. Experience.
Oh, I mean, Wutan's doing pretty well.
I'm just playing really big.
Okay.
Still 100K.
Everyone's done reviewing. Wow. 4 in 1 turn. Okay, goodbye.
Please don't lie, he's still quiet, man.
I will get
What's that? Oh, really? That happened fast.
Hex became number 1, and I don't know where Hex came from, honestly.
I'm playing the turtle game.
Yeah.
Okay. You came out of nowhere. You like weren't even top 5 in the first.
You applied to be a bear chain buyer and got rejected.
I know how to attack customers. How many rounds do we have?
12 rounds.
Wow.
Yeah, so a lot of you lost before the first half of the game.
Oh my god.
I'm close.
Okay. just 3 more people. Now that there's less people, the rounds should go faster.
Yeah, I agree.
Alright, you guys get 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Who's Harry? Harry. Okay.
I'm out.
From
Wow.
losing money.
What? I'm the number one. What?
4 people left in the race. Wow, we lost another half of you.
Yeah.
It's a brutal game. I mean, in the real stablecoin race, I think,
It's even more brutal.
yeah, it's even more brutal. I bet I can name 10 stablecoin projects you guys have never heard of before that are all out of business.
Game over.
I need to change the name of that coin.
Unstable coin. Hack's doing pretty well, man.
Yeah. Healthy budget, active user base.
Taking some business.
All right, just 4 of you. You guys should take
Go.
1 minute or 30 seconds.
I'll keep watching. Wait, can we watch?
I mean, you can
The
watch the
leaderboard,
screen.
yeah.
I don't know if you can see their actions. Probably not.
Probably not. I'll just watch the screen then.
You can look over their shoulders.
Copycat.
Bro, AWS down.
That means the blockchain is down.
And that
Yeah,
took
see, it's
like
good.
60K.
We should do well. Do a crypto game night and play this.
I mean, you surprisingly can learn something from playing.
Switch you
I
man.
didn't expect it when I first played.
I exactly selected that option because I did not have funds. And I was kicked out. This is so good. Who built this game?
So there's a company called StableWatch. They basically build stablecoin analytics products.
He's my friend.
No, actually.
Founder of Stablecoins myself.
So I have actually never met anyone on the StableWatch team, but
I know them.
you know them.
They are my friends.
Oh, really? Okay.
His
That's
name is-
why all we're on
his
top
name
one.
His name is Halko. I never played this game before. But
Yeah, I mean, so we have worked with them before. Like they've written some articles for us and we've done some like dashboards together. But I've never met their team in person.
Who's Kahoot?
It's me.
Okay.
Ooh, crime legalized globally. Let's go!
We didn't make it.
But yeah, you didn't make it to the bowl season.
Let me take this.
It's crime
So
season.
the important is survival.
Until crime.
Yeah,
Until crime season.
Okay, so the 4 of you are still alive. Mostly
Oh,
doing
growing
okay.
like crazy. Nice. Mark's running out of money though.
Getting low.
Wu-Tang kind of lagging behind. But hey, sometimes slow and steady wins the race.
He has the most money. Oh, hey dude, can we do a short recording of you later? Like, just ask you a question and you share like 7 minute goodwill.
Yeah.
So those guys ready when you are.
Okay. Should have shaved. I forgot I was going to be in the recording.
And that's when he was man. more manly.
Put it on TikTok. Do a makeup and shit. So we'll upload everything. Okay.
All right, good luck, good luck.
Yes, some positive cash flow.
Liquidity when reward end.
Yeah, I don't know what that impacts, honestly. Okay, but it seems like everyone is still,
Nothing changed.
you know, doing pretty well.
Yeah.
No one's nearing bankruptcy. TBL numbers are starting to balloon. But we're
Yeah,
only
it's-
halfway. So it's still anybody's game. Anyone can still go bankrupt and anyone can still become number one. So,
Yeah, this is a bull market grow right here.
you know, this is the real test. The first 6 turns was the tutorial. Sorry to everyone who lost in the tutorial. If it makes you feel better, I also bankrupted the first time I played this game. Okay, new high yield opportunity emerges. Ooh. Relatively stable, I would say, so far. But Hex has a lot of money to burn now.
Saving for the last round.
We're starting to see who the USDT and USDC of the cycle are. Okay, traditional markets crash. Uh-oh.
Nice.
Man.
Wow.
Starting to feel like Hex is an insurmountable lead. But
Everybody's
there's still
profitable.
4 turns left. Still anyone's game. A lot can change in 4 turns. 4 turns is how long it took for half of you to bust out. So
This is why we can't have nice things in dead reply.
Alright. Good luck, good luck. Oh, SEC approved stablecoin framework.
Wow.
Okay. It's just like real life, guys. Any shakeups?
No, they
Winners keep winning. Welcome to the stablecoin game.
You can pivot your project.
launch a new plasma.
Yeah. If they made this game today, then it would be about stablecoin chains instead of yield-bearing stablecoin projects.
Yeah. You're gonna upgrade the game.
Gonna upgrade what?
This game.
Probably not. I mean, I think eventually they will. But the last time they did this, they did it for a conference. So, yeah, actually maybe, because we have token coming up.
Yeah, next week.
Yeah. But they also recently raised funding, so I think they have bigger things that they're working on now.
Sure.
We have another CBDC launch, okay. Market's maturing. Ooh, everyone except Wu-Tang is cash rich now. Alright, good luck. Second to last turn, make it count. You can't eat your money, okay? So you know, there's not many opportunities left to spend it. If you haven't TGE'd yet, you know, maybe think about it. All right, final stretch. DeFi hack, major market panic. Yeah. I mean, too big to fail though, honestly. Yeah, Hex is now almost double number 2.
So last turn?
Yep, last turn. Make it count. This
Spend
is-
all your money.
This is the time to sabotage your
Destroy the competitor.
Yeah.
Monopoly.
Wow, Wu-Tang might actually go bankrupt on the last turn. Let's see. Okay, good luck. Quantum computing breaks encryption.
Oh, then everyone is screwed.
All right. Turn 12 results. This is it. All right. So we got Hex with a very healthy lead. So what's your secret? How did you?
I know how from a project in terms of the pressure. That's why I didn't spend any money to the social pressures.
Okay.
I focused on security,
Okay.
mobile application, and then after I just focused on the cross functionality because I want more users after I hire a lobbyist.
Okay. So you didn't spend money on marketing in the
No.
beginning. Okay. That's the secret.
Yeah, that's the secret.
Paying KOLs is a money black hole.
Oh, I paid Arthur Hayes because he was trying to fund me. I just shut him down.
All right, so hopefully you guys, learned something or at least enjoyed this. I think I have a package delivery. Someone tried to call me. All right, anyways, yeah, if you want to try this game on your own, there is single player mode. Also, if you want to compare how well you did to everyone else, there is a leaderboard as well. So actually, congratulations guys, we are the leaderboard because it seems like no one else has played this game this week. So you're all winners. Yeah, I mean, any final questions, comments about the game or about stablecoins or anything else?
I mean, how can someone create a game like this before other platforms, like not the stablecoin platforms?
I mean, so the people that created this game, I mean, obviously they've been in the industry for a while, right? So there's like a lot of humor from inspired by real events that happen on Twitter or, that they hear through like other news channels, right? So if you want to create a game like this, then I think the most important aspect is you have to like really understand, like,
Okay.
yeah, not just the market, but also the sentiment, the vibes, the memes, whatever, right? Like there's a lot of hidden references in here if you know where to look. I think the actual mechanics of the game are pretty basic, right? Like if you really tried, you could definitely make a more sophisticated simulator game. But the main goal of this game is to just, have like a fun experience where people can, think about what are the different aspects that you might encounter or have to, decide on when you do a stablecoin. And the first decision that you made is probably the most important one, actually, right? Like, what is the differentiator between your stablecoin and what is the trade-off that users have to make when they use your stablecoin, right? So.
All right, let's give a round of applause. Thank you. Everyone learned something today. And next, maybe pivot to stablecoin. Again, you don't know. You don't know, right?